You ever wonder how we really know what happened in the past? I mean, it's not just about memorizing a bunch of dates and names, right? Turns out history is a lot more like an investigation. So let's grab our detective hats and see how historians piece it all together. Think about it this way. How do we get inside the head of a figure like Gandhi? When he makes a huge call, like canceling a nationwide movement, what's actually going through his mind? Is it a gut reaction or part of some bigger, unseen strategy? Well, the answers are all hiding in the clues they left behind. Okay, so our first stop on this investigation is the most official place you can imagine, the government itself. We're talking about the archives, these massive collections of documents that governments create just to keep things running. Now, these official records are basically the paper trail of power. They were made for a really practical reason: administration, just getting things done. But here's the cool part. For a historian, they accidentally reveal so much about the ruler's policies, their philosophy, and even their psychology. I know. A government file sounds kind of boring, right? But trust me, even the most mundane-looking document can tell a really dramatic story. Let's follow one specific file, a proposal to build a new school back in British India. So check out this process. One official submits the proposal. Then another one chimes in, questioning the numbers. A third guy starts worrying about the budget. And then someone higher up brings gender into the mix. All of a sudden, this isn't just a file about a school anymore. It's like a blueprint of the government's entire mindset. What they cared about, what they were afraid of, everything. But this is where it gets really fascinating. That single file, that one piece of evidence, doesn't just have one meaning. Its story completely changes depending on who's doing the reading. So you have a British administrator, and he looks at this file and sees progress. He's thinking, look at us. We're building schools. We are bringing civilization to India. But then an Indian nationalist looks at the exact same document and asks a totally different question. Yeah, but what are you teaching in these schools? This isn't education. This is just replacing our culture with yours. Same file, two completely different stories. And it doesn't even stop there. The questions just keep piling on. A feminist historian might look at it and ask, great, but can girls from the nearby village even get to this school? A Christian missionary might see it and think, how can we use this school to spread our faith? And a Marxist historian is going to ask, okay, but who does this system really benefit? The people or the guys in charge? You see, one file, so many different lenses. So here's the bottom line. These documents were never written for historians. They weren't meant for us to read. They were just practical tools for running an empire. But in all their notes and questions and little debates, they left behind this perfect accidental snapshot of how they thought. Okay, so we've got the official story down. We have a pretty good idea of what the government was thinking. But history isn't just made by people in offices, right? What about the millions of people actually living through all these policies? Where are their voices in all this? And that brings us to our second set of clues. This is where we start digging for the unofficial evidence, the human side of the story, told by the people themselves. This people's archive is just incredibly rich and diverse. We're talking about everything from personal diaries and biographies to the accounts written by foreign travelers. And maybe most importantly, we're talking about newspapers, novels, and even paintings. Just think about it for a second. In a world with no Twitter, no Instagram, no TV, newspapers were it. They were the original social media. For nationalist leaders, they were the single most powerful tool to spread ideas, critique the government, and shape what the public was thinking. And boy, did they use them well. You had Bal Gangadhar Tilak with his paper Kesari. Surendranath Banerjee had the Bengali. There was even a paper called Gadar that was published all the way over in San Francisco to get Indians living abroad fired up. These weren't just newspapers. They were weapons in the struggle for independence. But what about how it all felt? Official records are so mechanical. They give you the facts, but they completely miss the soul of the moment. That's where literature and novels come in. They capture the pain, the anger, the hopes of an entire nation. They give us the raw emotion that you will never, ever find in an official government file. And it wasn't just words. Take a look at these two British paintings made after the 1857 rebellion. The one on the left paints the British as these heroic saviors, bringing peace and order. But then look at the one on the right. It shows helpless British women and children, creating this story back home in Britain about barbaric Indians and the brave soldiers needed to control them. This wasn't just art, this was powerful propaganda. So now we've got these two very different sets of clues, right? We have the official story from the top down and the human story from the ground up. So how on earth does a historian put it all together to get the complete picture? Well, the trick is to stop seeing them as two competing stories. They're actually two essential halves of the same story. The official records, they give us the what and the how, the policies, the administration, the view from the top. But the non-official sources, they give us the crucial why, the emotion, the lived experience, the view from the people on the ground.
And really, that's the whole game. A good historian, just like a good detective, knows you can never solve a case by just listening to one witness. You absolutely have to check the official account against the people's stories. That's the only way you can get anywhere close to what really happened.
And that kind of leaves us with a question for right now, doesn't it? The next time you're reading the news or scrolling through your feed, just think about it for a second. Are you getting the official report, or are you hearing the human story? And just like in history, don't you really need both to understand what's truly going on?